August 1st, 1943. Harlem was at war with itself. A white cop shot a black soldier. The neighborhood exploded. 10,000 people in the streets, buildings burning, blood on the pavement. The NYPD couldn't stop it. Before we dive deeper, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Grab yourself a warm drink, maybe a cup of tea or just some water, and sit back as we begin this journey together. The mayor wouldn't stop it, and everyone expected the same ending. Tanks rolling into Harlem, martial law, mass arrests, another excuse to crush the community. But then Bumpy Johnson did something nobody expected. He stopped the riot himself. No police, no politicians, just one man with a megaphone and the respect of an entire neighborhood. And when the smoke cleared, when the streets went quiet, Bumpy made one phone call to Mayor LaGuardia. And what he demanded on that call forced the mayor to do something that changed NYPD history forever. This is the night Bumpy Johnson proved that real power doesn't come from a badge. It comes from the people. To understand what happened on August 1st, 1943, you need to understand what Harlem was living through. World War II. Black men were being drafted to fight for American freedom overseas while being denied that same freedom at home. Segregated units, discriminatory treatment. And when they came home on leave wearing their uniforms with pride, they were still called boys by white cops, still denied service at white restaurants, still treated like they didn't belong in their own country. Harlem was a pressure cooker, overcrowded, underfunded, over-policed by an NYPD that saw black neighborhoods as enemy territory, not communities to protect. Cops didn't patrol Harlem, they occupied it. And the violence was constant. Not gang violence, police violence, beatings that never made the papers, arrests without cause, harassment that never stopped. Bumpy Johnson saw all of it. By 1943, he was 36 years old and already a legend. He'd survived prison, survived wars with Dutch Schultz and Lucky Luciano, survived everything the system threw at him. But more importantly, he'd earned something rare: the trust of Harlem. When Bumpy walked down Lenox Avenue, people nodded. Not out of fear, out of respect. Because Bumpy protected the neighborhood. When cops shook down black businesses, Bumpy made it stop. When slumlords tried to evict families, Bumpy made them pay. He was the unofficial mayor of Harlem, and everybody knew it. But even Bumpy couldn't predict what was about to happen. August 1st, 1943, 7:30 p.m. The Braddock Hotel on 126th Street. A black soldier named Robert Bandy, 26 years old, home on leave, wearing his U.S. Army uniform, was standing in the lobby. He heard a commotion. A white police officer, James Collins, was arresting a black woman named Margie Polite for disorderly conduct. The charge? She'd argued with the hotel manager about overcharging. Officer Collins was rough, grabbing Margie by the arm, twisting it behind her back. She cried out in pain. Robert Bandy, who'd spent the last year fighting fascism in Europe, couldn't watch a woman being brutalized by the people sworn to protect her. He stepped forward. "Sir, you're hurting her." Officer Collins turned, saw the uniform, didn't care. "Mind your business, boy." "I'm not a boy. I'm a soldier." What happened next? Witnesses gave different accounts, but the result was the same. Officer Collins drew his weapon and shot Robert Bandy in the shoulder. A soldier in uniform in a hotel lobby in front of dozens of witnesses. Robert collapsed, blood spreading across his army jacket. Collins radioed for backup, claiming Bandy had attacked him. A lie. But it didn't matter. The damage was done. Within 20 minutes, the word spread through Harlem like wildfire. They shot a soldier. They shot one of our boys. By 8 p.m., a crowd had gathered outside the Braddock Hotel. 50 people, then 100, then 500. By 9 p.m., the crowd was a mob. and the mob was moving. What started at the Braddock Hotel spread through Harlem like a wave. Years of rage, years of humiliation, years of injustice. All of it erupted at once. Store windows shattered. Not black-owned businesses, those were left untouched. But white-owned stores, the ones that charged Harlem residents double what they charged white customers. The ones that wouldn't hire black workers, those burned. Police cars were overturned. Officers who ventured into the streets were pelted with bricks, bottles, anything people could throw. The NYPD tried to form lines, push the crowds back, but they were outnumbered 50-1. By 10:09 p.m., the commissioner called the mayor. "We've lost control." Mayor LaGuardia, a progressive by reputation, faced a choice. Send in reinforcements with orders to crack skulls or call the National Guard. Either way, people were going to die. He chose the Guard. Gave them 90 minutes to mobilize. But here's what the mayor didn't understand. Harlem wasn't rioting because they were criminals. They were rioting because they were tired. Tired of being shot. Tired of being ignored. Tired of watching their sons go to war for a country that treated them like the enemy. And into this chaos walked Bumpy Johnson. 15 p.m. Bumpy Johnson stepped out of Small's Paradise, his headquarters on 135th Street. The streets were full of smoke, fire, noise, people running in every direction, sirens wailing. This wasn't organized. This was pain expressing itself the only way it knew how. Bumpy's lieutenants surrounded him. "Boss, we need to get you out of here. The Guard's coming." Bumpy looked at the burning streets, looked at his people destroying their own neighborhood, looked at the police in riot gear, waiting for an excuse to shoot. He made a decision. "Get me a bullhorn." "What?" "Get me a bullhorn and a car." 5 minutes later, Bumpy was standing on the hood of a Cadillac in the middle of 125th Street and Lenox Avenue, the heart of Harlem, the epicenter of the chaos. His driver leaned on the horn, a long, sustained blast. People turned, saw who it was, and slowly the noise started to die down. Bumpy raised the bullhorn. "Listen to me." His voice cut through everything, strong, calm, commanding. The crowd quieted, not completely. Fires were still burning. Glass was still breaking in the distance. But the people near him stopped, turned, and listened. "I know why you're angry. I'm angry too. They shot Robert Bandy for doing what any man would do, protecting a woman. And that cop will probably get a medal while Robert's in the hospital, fighting for his life." I know. Bumpy paused. "Let that sink in. But look around you. Look at what you're burning. Whose stores are these? Whose homes? Yours. You're burning your neighborhood. And tomorrow morning when the smoke clears, who's going to pay to rebuild? Not the NYPD, not City Hall. You. Voices in the crowd. They deserve it. They shot one of us." Bumpy nodded. "You're right. They do deserve it. But here's what they want. They want you to burn your own neighborhood so tomorrow they can roll tanks down these streets and say, 'See, they're animals. They need to be controlled.' They want you to give them an excuse." He pointed at the police line 3 blocks away. Officers in riot gear waiting. "You see those cops? They're waiting for you to throw one more brick, fire one more store, because when you do, they get to shoot. And when the bodies pile up, they'll blame you. Not the cop who shot Robert. You." The crowd was listening now. Really listening. "So here's what we're going to do. You're going to go home. You're going to check on your families. You're going to let me handle this." Someone shouted, "What are you going to do?" Bumpy smiled. Cold. Dangerous. "I'm going to call the mayor, and I'm going to tell him that if those cops who caused this aren't gone by tomorrow, next time I won't stop the riot, I'll lead it. 11:52 p.m. The streets were clearing. Not because the police ordered it, because Bumpy Johnson did. People were going home. Fires were being put out. By the time the National Guard rolled into Harlem at midnight, there was nothing to suppress. The riot was over. The guard commander radioed the mayor. "Sir, the situation is contained. We don't understand it, but the streets are empty." Mayor LaGuardia sat in his office, confused. His phone rang. "Mayor, you have a call. Says his name is Bumpy Johnson." LaGuardia hesitated. He knew the name. Every politician in New York knew the name, but Bumpy Johnson didn't call mayors. Mayors pretended men like Bumpy didn't exist. "Put him through." Bumpy's voice came through the line, calm, almost friendly. "Mr. Mayor, this is Bumpy Johnson. We haven't been formally introduced, but I think you know who I am. Mr. Johnson, I'm aware of your reputation." "Good. Then you know I just did your job for you. I stopped a riot your police couldn't handle. 10,000 people were in those streets, and I sent them home." "You're welcome." LaGuardia bristled. "I don't recall asking for your help. You didn't have to. See, unlike you, I actually live in Harlem. These are my people, and I'm not going to let them destroy themselves because your cops don't know how to act civilized. Officer Collins has been suspended pending investigation." "Suspended?" Bumpy's voice went cold. "That's not going to cut it." "Excuse me. Here's what's going to happen, Mr. Mayor. Officer Collins gone. Not suspended, fired. And every other officer in that precinct who's beaten a black citizen without cause, I have names. 8 of them. They're gone too. You can't demand—" "I'm not demanding. I'm informing because here's the deal. I stopped this riot. But the next time some cop puts his hands on one of my people, I won't stop. I'll arm it. You think tonight was bad? Tonight was me showing restraint." Silence on the line. "You can't threaten the mayor of New York City." Bumpy laughed. "I'm not threatening you, Mr. Mayor. I'm offering you a solution. You want peace in Harlem. You want your police to be able to patrol without getting bricks thrown at them? Then you clean the house. You get rid of the cops who think their badge gives them the right to beat black people. You do that, and I guarantee you won't have another riot. And if I don't, the next time I won't make a phone call. I'll make a statement, and you'll have a war on your hands." LaGuardia sat in his office staring at the phone. He knew Bumpy was right. He knew Collins was dirty. He knew at least half the Harlem precinct was corrupt. But firing cops, especially white cops, at the demand of a black gangster would be political suicide. But so would another riot. "I'll look into it. You've got 72 hours, Mr. Mayor. After that, I can't control what happens." The line went dead. August 4th, 1943. 3 days later, the New York Times ran a small story on page 7. 8 NYPD officers were dismissed following an internal review. No details, no names, just gone. Officer James Collins was fired and charged with assault. The charges were later dropped, but he never wore a badge again. The people of Harlem knew who was responsible. Not the mayor, not the NYPD commissioner, Bumpy Johnson. Mayor LaGuardia never publicly acknowledged the phone call, but for the rest of his term, he was careful about Harlem, careful about police conduct because he understood something that night. Bumpy Johnson had more power in those streets than any politician. And that power came from respect, from loyalty, from being the one person who stood between the community and the system trying to crush it. Years later, in 1965, when Malcolm X was assassinated, the NYPD asked Bumpy Johnson to help keep the peace. They didn't call the mayor. They called Bumpy because they knew who really ran Harlem. Bumpy Johnson died in 1968. At his funeral, thousands lined the streets, not because he was a gangster, because he was a protector. A man who understood that sometimes the only way to stop violence is to have the courage to stand in the middle of it and say enough. August 1st, 1943. Bumpy Johnson stopped a riot by refusing to let his people destroy themselves. And then he made the most powerful white man in New York answer for the violence his police caused. That's not just power, that's legacy. Do you have the courage to stop an enraged crowd, or will you let that fire burn down your own home? The truth is, the world does not fear the one with the most guns. The world fears the one with the most principles. Harlem in 1943 was not just a smoke-filled battlefield, it was a test of power between an oppressive system and a community pushed to its absolute limit. While the police were helpless and politicians trembled, Bumpy Johnson stood there, not as a criminal, but as a symbol of order amidst chaos. History shows that true street smarts is knowing how to use your brain to defeat brawn, maintaining patience when the enemy expects you to slip up. Bumpy understood that burning the neighborhood was only a momentary satisfaction, but respect from the community was the foundation of eternal power. Perhaps honor does not lie in how many opponents you take down, but in how many people under your wing you protect. The truth is, power borrowed from guns will fade, but self-earned prestige built on loyalty will last forever. In business or modern life, the truly strong is not the loudest one, but the person who keeps a cool head in adversity to provide a solution instead of destruction. Amidst the chaos of life, will you choose to be the fire that consumes everything, or the leader who guides the community through the storm? How much is your honor worth when facing survival?